All right, come on in, everybody. Welcome back to the Holler. Hope everybody is doing okay on this Memorial Day. My family all has COVID, but everybody is okay. We're quarantined, healthy, as far as we can tell. Hope you're all doing as well as we are right now. Under the circumstances, these are dark days, obviously. Thought I would jump on here and kind of go through some of the links and videos from our Holler email that we send out that hopefully you guys are subscribed to. tnholler.com is where you can subscribe and get that stuff. Twice a week we send out an email blast with a lot of the links. That's a way to keep up with things. And also you can follow all the Hollers throughout the state. That's all thanks to your support, the small dollar monthly donations. I know I say it often, but it's really true. This is what keeps us going. And shout out to Elisa Parker. If you're buying or selling in Tennessee, do it through her. That's a way to support us, spread the word. I also want to hear from you guys today, hear how you're doing, what you're thinking, and your comments along the way as we go over some of this stuff. Margaret gets the email. That's great to hear. Stephanie says, get well. We're all doing okay. My daughter had a little bit of a fever, but we're hanging in there. We're all vaccinated, so don't worry about us. Let's focus more on what's going on in the country right now today and talk about some of this stuff. And again, I want to hear from you guys, so definitely let me know what's on your mind right now. Obviously, we're all thinking about what happened in Uvalde, the shooting, the guns. It's all just so much. It's too much, and it has to stop. We have to do something. And, I believe there's a vibe out there right now that this might be different. I don't know if it's true. Time will tell. Curious if you guys think that's true. But I have seen some pushback that, we haven't really seen before. And so I want to at least lift up some of the pushback that we're seeing. These are some screen grabs from the pushback, and we can watch some of these videos together. But, we've seen Ted Cruz confronted a couple of times now, once in a restaurant. We've seen, the moms outside the NRA rip a megaphone away from an NRA supporter. We've seen people inside the NRA prayer breakfast standing up. So people are pushing back. People are making their voices heard. And it's encouraging to see that. Now, will anything change? There's no reason to believe that right now. I see some of you saying nothing will change. Completely justified in believing that way. I am not saying that I think it will. I don't know that it will. But I know that it won't without pressure. I know that it won't without people standing up and getting loud and embarrassing people the way they have. I mean, Ted Cruz is without shame. So, we know he's not going to change. But there needs to be pressure, and there has been some pressure. And so we've started to see, already some of the voices that have been opposed to any kind of change in gun laws now at least expressing that they may be open to some change. The police were in a hearing and they said that they are open to find, quote unquote, finding workable solutions. We'll see what comes of that, if anything. We've heard more and more people calling for these things. We've seen confrontations on TV. And so let's play one of those right now. This is Acosta talking to an NRA board member, and the NRA board member tried to, flash one of his NRA talking points about the Army, and Acosta wasn't having it.
Should an 18-year-old have an AR-15? What's he going to do with
I don't
them?
know.
Go
Should an
gun hunting?
18-year-old have one in the Army?
Well,
Should
they
an
have
18-year-old be in the Army?
military training in the Army. This 18-year-old in Uvalde did not have military training. He turned 18 and he went out and bought an AR-15.
Ed?
Yeah, I mean, so he then says something, but you can tell that even the slightest pushback, they're not ready for it. Even just the slightest pushback. I mean, that is such a basic way to refute that point, and he wasn't ready for that. These they don't have the wherewithal to even deal with the slightest pushback. They're not ready for it. So, that was good of Acosta. Acosta, somebody that's speaking truth. I see Margaret saying she feels hopeless. Look, don't blame me for feeling hopeless. These are not hopeful times we're living in. And, LC Lorraine says it might change if we could do something about the Senate. Yes, that's the main issue. And Greg Sargent from the Washington Post made the point that what Democrats should be saying is if you give us 2 more senators, we vow to abolish the filibuster to bring gun reform. That's a pretty sensible way to approach things. Right now they don't have the numbers to abolish the filibuster to give us gun reform. But if they said, hey, give us 2 more senators and we promise we will abolish the filibuster, maybe that's a way to at least put this on the ballot and make people feel like this really is on the ballot. But I don't know. Do you feel like this is really on the ballot? They're going to say it's on the ballot, but do you feel like this is really on the ballot? Putting the gun issue on the ballot may be the only way anything gets done, says Sandra. Yeah, I mean, but you have to really mean it. And you have to be ready to show people that that's actually on the ballot. And the way that you can do that is by promising to abolish the, as Barbara says, Jim Crow filibuster, which is exactly what it is. It's a racist relic intended to keep civil rights from being a reality. It's a way that they preserve minority rule in this country. And minority rule is what we have, and that's why we are where we are, because we have senators that, 40% of the Senate, representing 11% of the country, can basically veto anything they don't like in this country. That's minority rule. That is not democracy. And that's why we have the government that we have that won't fix this problem. And as Stephanie says, our nation's problem is easy access to guns. It's a problem more guns will not fix. That's absolutely right. And, it's just so clear. The numbers show that the firearm mortality rates are dominated by red states at the top, including ours, right there at number 10. And if they really mean that it's about mental health, well, then they should expand Medicaid, which they haven't done, which shows us that they actually don't care about mental health, because Medicaid is one of the key sources of funding for mental health agencies. So if you really think it's about mental health, but you're not expanding Medicaid like Texas didn't, like we haven't, then you don't care about mental health and you don't care about kids dying. You can't say it's about mental health and not expand Medicaid and expect to be taken seriously. Governor Lee, Republican supermajority. That's not how this works. That is garbage. That is a lie. And when they try to treat the Second Amendment as sacrosanct and say, well, it can't be even adjusted, well, conservative Supreme Court Justice Scalia disagreed. He said, like most rights, the Second Amendment is not unlimited. It's not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever in any manner whatsoever and for whatever purpose. That's not me. That's Justice Scalia telling you that. So the idea that the Second Amendment can't be amended to fit the times that we live in is nonsense. It is an amendment. Amendment means change. It was change. It can be changed. And by the way, the first 3 words are a well-regulated militia. And you don't have to hear me say that. Here is one of your people saying that. This is Franklin Republican Representative Brandon Ogles saying what I just said, which is that the third word of the Second Amendment is well regulated and always has been.
I know we latch on to that second part, shall not be infringed, but that first part always gives me a little pause and trouble on how to deal with, because third word of the Second Amendment says a well regulated. The third word is regulated. Our founders who wrote the Constitution, I think they agreed that there should be some regulations at some point. And I'm seeing head shake. So that word wasn't supposed to be in there. They miswrote it. So, well, I mean, it's in there. It's in there, and it's always been in there. They knew.
That's Brandon Ogles, folks. He's a Republican, a Franklin Republican, a conservative, one of yours. He's yours. He is nobody's idea of a liberal or a progressive. And he's sitting there as Chris Todd is trying to lower the age to 18, which is how old this kid was. This guy, this adult, I won't call him a kid, monster. This monster was. But he's not old enough not to do that. And studies have shown like 70% of these shooters are under, I think, 22 or something like that. That's Brandon Ogles saying that. And then, we don't have the reverse angle where all these conservative Republicans, I'm not calling them conservatives. They're not conservative. Extremists are in the audience going, no, that's not what it says. That's not what it means. That's not what it's referring to. Well, Brandon Ogles sure thinks that's what it was referring to, because that's what it was referring to, well regulated. But even if you refuse to acknowledge that it says well regulated and that's what it means, it's an amendment, which means change. And this guy, Steve Hofstetter, who's a great comedian, he made the point that, well, if amendments are so precious, what do the rest of them say? You only know what the first and the second say. You don't know what the rest of them say, do you? No, you don't. Because amendments are change, and you are picking and choosing. And so that was Brandon Ogles saying that. And, good on him for saying it. Of course, now Brandon's gone. He's not running again. He couldn't handle whatever the hell is going on here. But I did appreciate him saying that. A couple other things that are in our email today. Again, subscribe at tandholler.com. One is the Scientific American article that says the science is clear, gun control saves lives, which a lot of people responded and said, don't say science. They don't like science, which you're not wrong about that. But one of the things that really jumped out at me in there was this. More children die by gunfire in a year than on-duty police officers and active military members. Let's read that again. More children die by gunfire in a year than on-duty police officers and active military members. We are a gun-sick nation, folks. We are a gun-sick nation. And that has never been more clear than it is right. I mean, it has been clear for a long time, but right now, in this moment, boy, is it clear and sad. And again, this only happens here. That's the thing that they never really want to talk about, is that this is a American problem. And when they bring up all of these things to try to deflect, video games, social media, wokeness, critical race theory, single mother households, too much, these are all doors, drugs. These are all things that happen in other countries. You know what doesn't it happen in other countries? They don't sell weapons of war to 18-year-olds willy-nilly. 20 million assault rifles are in circulation now. 20 million. That's what doesn't happen in other countries. It's not video games. It's not social media. Wokeness, liberal indoctrination, critical race theory, which is all bullshit lies to begin with. single mother households. I was raised in one of those. I'm not out here trying to kill anybody. Frankly, that's insulting. Too much screen time. Other countries. Not enough church. Okay, well, we have more church than a lot of other countries, more regular attendance at church than a lot of other countries. And in Tennessee, we're the buckle of the Bible Belt. And we have 5 of the 65 most dangerous cities, deadliest cities in the entire country. So that ain't it. It's the guns. That's what it is. And it's time to not even entertain the nonsense anymore. One of the moments that I thought was a little bit inspiring was seeing the pushback and the loud cheers outside of the NRA convention, which the crowd outside was bigger than the crowd inside. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And on June 11th, there are going to be some monster marches, and I hope you'll go to one. And I will certainly be at one with my family. And then the question becomes, can we sustain this? Not just through this election cycle, but through every election cycle until every single one of these NRA puppets is gone. This can't be about tomorrow. This can't be about next week, next month, next election. This has to be constant. And it has to be important enough that we vote on it. You know, doing the Holler, I wake up feeling fired out of a cannon every day. And thank you to you guys for supporting us and letting us do this work. But it can't just be a few people. It can't just be the activists. It can't just be the politicians. It can't just be the journalists that wake up and think about this every day. You know, and you're here, so you're probably people that do think about this every day. But, you know, this has to motivate everybody. And we can't stop until it does. Another moment from outside the NRA convention that gave me hope was this NRA supporter who tried to shout them down, and this did not go as this dude planned. That gives me chills. That's awesome. I mean, that's just, you know, it's just when you just had it and like, no, give me the megaphone, get your ass out of here. It ain't the time for that. Kids are dying. You know, that's what we need. Motivate everybody, says Jennifer. Absolutely. Everybody, as Miko says. Yes, everybody. And I'm seeing your comments. I'm trying to read them as I'm talking here. I do appreciate them. Stephanie says 2 groups of teens opened fire on each other in Chattanooga Saturday, wounded several in critical condition. Yes, I wanted to talk about that here too. That did happen. You know, every day, something else. So Chattanooga just had that go down. And they just announced today or yesterday that it was 6 teenagers that were shot. I think 5 of them were 15 and 1 was 13. We're not yet sure about the details of what happened or, where they got the gun and all that, but we know enough that Mayor Tim Kelly stood up there and he said, guns have no place in the hands of kids and we need common sense gun reform. And now Tim Kelly's not a Democrat. He's an independent, and he called on the Senate to do something. And it was good to hear him say that. That was a stark contrast from the Uvalde mayor who went on Fox and railed about all kinds of other nonsense, tried to deflect from the failure of his department and his city to protect those kids. It didn't just happen in Chattanooga. This one you might not have heard about because it's so commonplace now. This is in Cleveland, Tennessee. This dude threatened to shoot up a school. So the police went and arrested him. And his reason was because he was banned from social media for saying some crazy shit. So, this is now just like their go-to, I'm going to shoot up a school, which is horrible. And I don't have the clip here handy. I should have brought it with me. I don't have it. But what you need to know is that Gloria Johnson tried to pass a red flag law this past session. And Representative Rush Bricken helped kill it. And what he said was that he thought it was too dangerous to try to take guns away from people. What? Rush? I emailed him about this, by the way, this week. He hasn't responded, but he thought it was too dangerous to take guns away from dangerous people. And when I asked him about it, he basically acted like he didn't remember. But the bottom line is Republicans blocked a red flag law that Gloria Johnson tried to pass. And instead, they've been passing laws like lowering the age to 18 and making the open carry, constitutional carry law that law enforcement opposed apply to all guns. So Republicans are trying to make this state less and less safe, which is why Smith & Wesson is moving from Massachusetts to Tennessee because, Governor Lee has been showing that he really only cares about guns and not about kids. And that's what's been going on around here. But confront them. And I want to praise Indivisible Houston for what they did at this sushi restaurant in Houston, where Ted Cruz was trying to have a sushi dinner after making a speech at the NRA convention, where he again pushed for not doing anything about guns after 19 kids died. And Indivisible Houston didn't want to just let him have his sushi dinner undisturbed.
Go. We're good. Yeah, we got it.
I would encourage you to get a half hour today in the NRA because there are actually a lot of laws.
Yeah, but can you tell me? I have a young daughter.
Can hardly hear them, so I'm just going to move forward to when he eventually gets dragged out.
NRA convention. It is harder. When there are more guns to stop gun violence. It is not ignorance. We are in this country and there are guns everywhere. And we're dying.
So this guy eventually gets dragged out, and Ted Cruz is sitting there calling him ignorant because he's just gaslighting. This guy is just a really monstrous guy. Number one recipient of gun lobby money from 1989 to 2020 is Ted Cruz. And, that was great to see. And it wasn't the first time Ted Cruz was confronted. This other reporter confronted him in a way that I thought was awesome. Millions of people saw it. You've probably seen it by now. But it just shows the kind of persistent interviewing that we need of these people and how they fall apart at the slightest touch, which happens when we interview them about stuff here in Tennessee also. This is a kind of journalism after my own heart right here.
There are 19 sets of parents who are never going to get to kiss their child goodnight again.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
It's easy to go to politics
But it's important. It's at the heart of the issue.
I get that that's where the media likes to go.
No, it's not. It's where many of the people we've talked to here like to go.
The proposals from Democrats in the media, inevitably, when some violent psychopath murders people,
A violent psychopath who's able to get a weapon so easily.
See, what I love about this is this British journalist is like not letting him go on his rant. He's interrupting him. He's pushing back with the truth, and he was ready with the truth. And so that's what we need. We need more people like that coming in, and it shouldn't take a European journalist, or sorry, not European, they're British now. It shouldn't take foreign journalists to do this. This should be every day, and it should happen more, and it shouldn't be such a shock to see it. You know, and he kept going.
18-year-old with 2 AR-15s.
if you want to stop violent crime, the proposals the Democrats have, none of them would have stopped this.
But why does this only happen in your country? I really think that's
Exactly.
what many people around the world just, they cannot fathom. Why only
There's
in
no
America?
answer for
Why
this.
is this American exceptionalism so awful?
You know, I'm sorry you think American exceptionalism is awful.
And that right there, you know, Ted Cruz is more upset. How dare you criticize American exceptionalism? It's such a dangerous idea, American exceptionalism, you know? I mean, yes, we live in a country that's great in a lot of ways, but we can criticize it too because it's awful in a lot of ways also. And this notion that we're just exceptional because you say American exceptionalism and beyond reproach, it's so dangerous. It's behind so much pain and has caused so much pain. And Cruz tries to stare this guy down as though he's going to get him to back down and change his mind by just staring at him with those thin snake eyes of his. And this guy, he's not having it. He's not having it.
I think this aspect of it.
You got your political agenda.
No, it's
God,
honestly,
God love you.
Senator, it's not. I just want to understand why you do not think that guns are the problem.
Why is this just an American problem?
See, and then he runs away because he doesn't have the answers and patronizes, you know, he calls it an agenda. I mean, it's all of the things that they do. Everything's an agenda. If you don't have the answers, just call it an agenda and walk away. You know, and maybe that works on some people. You know, maybe there are people that buy that, but he doesn't have answers. And anybody who's coming at this even remotely from a balanced place can see that. Yes, quote unquote, American exceptionalism. So again, you know, the point I'm trying to come on here and at least talk to you guys about is, you know, is this different? I don't know, but this is the kind of pushback we haven't really seen before. I mean, it's a long time coming. Their answers are so ridiculous, though. Here's another just absolutely insane answer that you guys need to see. This is Cassidy, I think is his name, from Louisiana, Senator Cassidy. And he's asked why we need why we need weapons of war in the hands of, you know, regular people. And this is his like laughably hilarious, absurd answer.
Do you think that there is any room to ban assault weapons in this country? Why does someone need an AR-15?
Well, if you talk to the people that own it, killing feral pigs in the, you know, whatever, the middle of Louisiana, they wonder, why would you take it away from me? I'm law-abiding. I've never done anything. I use it to kill feral pigs. The action of a criminal deprives me of my right.
Killing feral pigs. Now, let me just say up front, I've never killed a feral pig. So, you know, it's possible you need a AR-15 to shoot a pig. I mean, but chances are no, you don't. And the bottom line is that's not a reason to put our children at risk and sell these things to people. You know, because the point about these guns, if you talk to doctors And you talk to the government, because there was a study about this in 1962, actually, as far back as that, where they wrote about AR-15s and what they do to people. And I'm not trying to be morbid here, but I do want to say this. What these guns do to people when they're fired and when they hit them, what they do to their inside, it's like a spinning bullet. So, there's all kinds of grotesque descriptions of, that it was like what it was doing to people. I don't want to get into, the details necessarily, and feel free to Google it, but these are not just normal bullets and normal guns. I mean, the impact that it has, the way that it, decimates its targets. That's why they use these guns. That's why every single mass shooting that you can think of involved an AR-15. It's the weapon of choice for people. So, and you say make a regulation to exempt feral pig hunting. I mean, okay, sure. But I mean, the point is, like, if you're weighing the pros and cons of what to do and not do and where to sell these things, if kids are getting murdered, that's reason enough to like force feral pig hunters to use a somewhat lesser weapon, in my opinion, and I'm sure the opinion of most reasonable people right now. Feral pig. So that's Cassidy, and that's what he said. But there are some right-wing people that are starting to talk some sense. Some people that you would never expect. One being Trump loyalist John Voight, who, this is not something I've heard him say before, and this is another reason that might be okay to think maybe there is some change happening in some souls.
Sure that we will never see this horror again in this lifetime. We must identify every individual for their credentials, for their mental capacity to bear arms. There should be proper qualifications for gun ownership and proper testing. One should only own a gun if they're qualified and schooled. I stand with all. I stand for freedom of each soul's truths.
I mean, that's a lot. Credentials, testing, qualifications, schooling, like that's a lot. That's a Trump loyalist. He's out there. That guy's out there. And if he's sitting there saying that, I just think it's important to lift that up. I'm always torn about platforming these people or ignoring them, but I think when they start to have a moment of change, you have to give them room to do that, and their voices become important. It's kind of like if Marsha Blackburn were suddenly calling for gun control, like, yeah, we would want to lift up her voice. So I think it's important to point out that John Voight is saying that now. And maybe that's emblematic of the change in the hearts of some of these very extreme people. I see Miko saying, I'm so angry. Christine saying a lot of crying. Yeah, I feel that too. I mean, it's, I have a 6-year-old daughter. I dropped off at kindergarten the day after this happened. And it was not an easy thing to do. And someone's kids are next. Someone's kids are next, I mean, that's just the harsh truth in this country. Like, this was not the line that's going to happen, especially if nothing changes. This picture really said a lot, I thought. This was a guy in an American flag shirt walking into the NRA convention, plugging his ears as people called for change. I mean, that's pretty perfect right there. I don't know if they give award for photograph. They definitely give awards for photographs. I don't know what they are. That should be in the running. More and more we're seeing the calls for people pushback. This woman was on Fox News. She said Republicans must stop being the party of egregious mass shootings. And I hope that you guys, I appreciate that you petition when we go live, that you come on here and share. This is just a tough moment, and it's important just to do. Kim saying we as a Democrat party. Oh, I lost you, Kim. Yes, I agree. And the Dems have to get tough too. Like, we have to pressure the Democrats to, I thought Schumer going on vacation after this happened, letting them, I thought it sent a really bad message. This is a moment everybody should be doing all they can. Going on recess is not the play right now. If McConnell had done that, we would have been horrified. So, I just think that was a miss on Schumer's part. And I know that there's not a lot that can be done, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be standing there censoring this and, making this an emergency, which is what it is. This is an emergency, and it has to be treated as such. So what can we do now? What's coming up? There's going to be these marches June 11th. I hope you'll all make a plan to go to. I'll be there. There's also, I believe, going to be an action on Wednesday in Nashville. I think outside the Capitol. So if any of you are around Nashville, I hope you'll think about showing up there. There's going to be, I think, empty chairs, 21 empty chairs outside the Capitol. And, there'll be some clergy and people talking about that we need to do more, because I think people don't want to wait till June 11th. This was outside the service for the kids. Biden was there and they yelled, "Do something." And this is what he said. He said, "We will." So, I don't see how you can say that and then not do something. So they have to do something, and we have to pressure them to do something. And we have to keep pressuring Governor Lee, who did no events this week with any press availability, or I would have gone and talked to him. But magically, he had 0 press availability this week. Imagine that. Pretty cowardly guy, that Governor Lee. That happens fairly regularly. Lauren says there's a lot of corporate Dems that talk a good game until it comes time to act. They need to be pressured as much as the Republicans. Christine says, I can't walk fast enough to keep up with marches. Maybe we'll go down to the courthouse. And Nellie says we cannot let up on this issue enough. Yes, I completely agree with all that. All right, to end on a lighter note, this video was so ridiculous. I just felt like I wanted to share it with you guys. This is in Pittsburgh. This guy, the car went the wrong way down a one-way street. And this Trumper jumped on his hood. I just find this so ridiculous.
This motherfucker jumps on my car. Gets right in front of my car. Get off! Move! What are you doing? Get off my car! He's still on my car. Get the fuck off my car.
Oh my God. I can watch that over and over again. I don't know what that guy's doing. It's so ridiculous. I just thought it was sort of a metaphor for American politics right now. We're trying to get them off the car. They won't get off the car. And if they could just get off the car, maybe we could move forward and try to solve some problems in this country. Anyway, I found that fun. All right. thank you guys for joining us. Please stay involved, stay angry, and keep lifting each other up. Show up at these rallies. And, these are dark times, but sticking together is what gets us through it. And I do sort of see some signs that there are some hearts changing out there. So when hearts start to change, as hard as it is, you got to give them room to do it. And it's not easy to do that, but you got to do it. So hopefully some hearts are changing out there, because we don't need weapons of war in the hands of teenagers and kids. And it is the guns, no matter what they say. That's what separates us. It's the guns. Have a good day.